The Nintendo Switch has been around for over 5 years now, which is crazy to me, and I'm not really sure why. But honestly, this video isn't to praise the console, it's to complain about it. Being a 2000s kid, I grew up with a Nintendo Wii and a Nintendo DS, and eventually got a Nintendo 3DS as well, all of which I think still hold up very well today, and are still enjoyable. The same goes for the Switch, but I'm going to draw many connections to the Wii, DS, and 3DS in this video, as there are honestly many things about them that I think the Switch lacks, and some things that make them better than the Switch in a way. In my opinion, as a system overall, the 3DS is the best of the four Nintendo systems I've mentioned so far. Anyway, without further ado, I'm just gonna start ranting about the Switch now. First things first, what else could I possibly complain about first other than the Switch's controllers, the JoyCons? We all know that these controllers are prone to this silly little thing called controller drift, where the analog sticks perform actions on their own without you even moving them. They don't move on their own when they do this, they simply cause actions to happen for no reason, and since this occurs with the sticks of the controller, that means you'll have some serious problems as they are used to scroll on things like the Switch's main screen and to move and look around in many games. I said there is no reason for this, but there obviously is. It's usually because dust and dirt getting inside of the sticks. So yeah, the entirety of your experience with the Switch can be reduced to nothingness simply because a microscopic particle snuck underneath a crevice on the Joy-Con's analog stick. I haven't experienced drift in a long time now, but there was 2 straight years in a row where I had to ask for new Joy-Cons for Christmas because they kept getting drift. This wouldn't be too big of a deal, but the Joy-Cons are like $70 or maybe even more than that, so it is a problem. Luckily, I think newer Joy-Cons don't drift as much, at least that's what I've experienced with my newest pair, which I got about 2 years ago now. Anyway, I've got another complaint with the controllers. Even though my new pair doesn't have drift, it does have another problem, and that problem might actually be with the console itself. My right Joy-Con detaches from the console sometimes and forces me to take the other one out to play games, because it randomly refuses to reconnect the Joy-Con back to the Switch. When I say it detaches, I don't mean that it physically detaches. I mean that it's still attached, but the Switch randomly says that I took it off, even though I didn't. So I essentially have to slide the other Joy-Con halfway off, until the messed up one reconnects and I can push the other one back down. Now that's a little confusing, so I'm just going to talk about yet another complaint I have about the Joy-Cons. You see, the Wii Remote, the DS, and the 3DS all have D-pads, which is a lot easier to use than 4 separated buttons. Of course, the DS and the 3DS also have 4 separated buttons alongside the D-pad, but at least they have a D-pad. The Switch has 4 buttons on both Joy-Cons, which I guess is for when you're using one sideways controller, but 2 D-pads would honestly be a lot better. The Switch Lite at least has 1 D-pad, but I have a normal Switch and it would be nice if it at least had 1 as well. That's all I've really got to say about the controllers, so I'll move on to more in-depth stuff about the console now. I'm just going to quickly mention 2 more problems about the actual design of the console real quick, and those are, the kickstand sucks and should be larger like the one on the OLED model, and the fan spins so fast sometimes that it's almost louder than the game volume. Alright, now, turning the Switch on, let's talk about some things that go on when you're actually using the console. First of all, why is it that when I play a new game, it takes about a week before it actually tells me how many hours I've played it for? I try to keep track of how much I play games, but the Switch takes multiple days before it tells you your playtime for a game. Until then, it just tells you how long ago it was when you started playing the game. Also, unlike the 3DS, which gives you exact numbers for playtime, the Switch gives you estimated times. For example, the Switch would say 145 hours or more instead of 146 hours. Next, I want to mention the one thing that really makes me appreciate the 3DS more as a system when compared to the Switch. The Switch lacks any flair and fun on its main screen, no pre-installed games and applications to utilize, Just news, the eShop, settings, and your own photos if you've taken any. The 3DS has so much more, like Face Raiders, which is a pre-installed game, Me Plaza and all the Street Pass stuff, an entire camera, and even download play, which allows you to play other people's games with them for free, even if you don't own them. Even the DS has download play, and even the Wii has many things to utilize if you don't intend on playing games on it. Like Me Maker, which the 3DS also has. Of course, the Switch has Me Maker too, but it was hidden away in the deep abyss of the settings page for some reason. As I was saying though, the 3DS had greater multiplayer and online features of Street Pass, Me Plaza, Find Me, and all that good stuff. And so did the DS in a way, simply because it also had download play, and it had Picto chat as well. The 3DS also has a chat, but it's actually online and can be done with your friends and stuff. The Switch, well, it has Switch Online, and you have to pay for it. No fun chat applications, no ability to play games with others for free by temporarily downloading their games, no fun applications based around having two systems near each other, nothing really. And the other things I was talking about, like how there's no pre-installed games to play, and the lack of a camera, are also kinda sad. Yes, you can take screenshots, but not actual pictures. The fact that the 3DS, which is over a decade old, functions better as an entertainment system on the surface than the Switch, which is only 5 years old, is a little bit sad. But I guess this is because the Switch focuses more on being a real console and being mature. But imagine how awesome it would be if the Switch home screen was like that of the Wii or the 3DS, with countless pre-installed services and applications to play without having to spend $60 on a game. And this is my next point, the money. You spent $300 for the Switch. Congrats. Now you've got to spend upwards of $60 more for every individual game, as well as additional money to use a majority of online services and games. Nintendo Switch Online. Oh yeah, and don't forget the extra $70 for replacements if your controllers get a single speck of dust inside of them. And also, let's not forget backwards compatibility. For handhelds in Nintendo, Game Boy Advance plays Game Boy, DS plays Game Boy Advance, 3DS plays DS, and for consoles, Wii plays GameCube, Wii U plays Wii, and Switch, Fortnite. But really though, there's no backwards compatibility on the Switch. Unless you want to spend money to get Switch Online for access to some NES and SNES games. Wow. Next up, this is kind of random, but remember how the 3DS had an internet browser right there on the home screen for you? Well, the Switch actually has this one. Oh, wait, no, that's just Switch Online again. Yeah, the Switch doesn't actually have one, but apparently there is a secret way to access an internet browser on the Switch, but why is it secret? Who knows? Well, I guess I could get into Switch games, but to complain about Switch games in this video would destroy the possibility for me to make countless whole videos where I complain about them, and the same goes for the Switch Lite and OLED model. I'm not going to complain about those because they could be whole other videos, except I'm never going to complain about them because I do not own a Switch Lite or a Switch OLED model, and I never plan on owning one. But yeah, that's all for now on the Switch. Now, I know I made it sound like I hate the Switch, but I don't actually hate it. It is my console of choice at the moment, while everyone else I play with uses Xbox, but I never really plan on making a switch to Xbox or PlayStation, honestly. I've always been a Nintendo gamer, with the DS, the Wii, the 3DS, and now the Switch. But I kind of want to do a science experiment right now. You know, you have the Switch, you have the the Joy-Cons and the sticks. And you get dust in there, causes Joy-Con drift. So we're actually going to see what happens if I manually put dust into the Joy-Con analog sticks.